Welcome back to Birds of a Feather. This is your daily Baltimore sports podcast. My name is Nathan Stroud, and today we're going to be going over the Orioles and Cubs Game 1 of this 3-game weekend series. All of these games are day games, so usually in a weekend series, or usually in like the first couple games of a series, these games would be at night. But for this Cubs series, all the games are day games. The game just ended about 10 minutes ago, and I wanted to go over it with you guys, obviously. The Orioles lose this game 1-0 and get shut out for, I don't even know how many times. I should count how many times they've gotten shut out, but they've been shut out quite a bit this year. But the Orioles lose this game 1-0. It was an absolutely embarrassing game, to be honest with you, from the offense and position player and offensive standpoint. The offense did absolutely nothing this game. They got no hit. They literally didn't do anything. But the star of the show was obviously Trevor Rogers, who threw pretty much a 8-inning shutout and lost the game 1-0. We'll go over Trevor Rogers in a little bit. All I'm going to say is that everybody that batted today for the Orioles, everybody on offense, from Gunnar to Adley to Jackson to Jordan to everyone that batted today on offense should owe Trevor Rogers dinner tonight. They should all split it 9 ways tonight for whatever they do. If they go to some Chicago deep dish pizza, whatever it is, they should all split Trevor Rogers' dinner and pay for it because Trevor Rogers deserves it. He should not. He should be getting a handwritten apology from everyone today, because Trevor Rogers went out there and had the best game by an Orioles pitcher this season by far, and one of the better performances I've seen by an Orioles pitcher really in the past couple of years. The last time that I remember an Orioles pitcher really doing this was in the playoffs last year, where we lost 1-0 to the Kansas City Royals in Game 1 of the Wild Card, where Corbin Burnes went 9 innings, and gave up only 1 run. So that reminds me of that situation, but Trevor Rogers goes out there today and does absolutely incredible, holds the Chicago Cubs to only 1 run, and has 8 strikeouts in the process, gets through 8 innings. We'll go over that more in a second, but the offense scores 0 runs this game, so if this video is not too long, don't blame me. There's really not that much to go over regarding the Orioles because we scored 0 runs in today's loss. But going over this Orioles and Cubs game, again, it was Game 1 of this 3-game series. This 3-game weekend series was Game 1, and the Cubs won this game 1-0 over the Orioles. The Orioles lose. They score 0 runs. The Cubs win. Obviously, the Cubs are phenomenal, one of the best teams in the majors this season. But the Orioles only lose 1-0. Shout out to the pitching again. And when I say shout out to the pitching, I mean shout out to the one guy in Trevor Rogers, the only pitcher who pitched for the Orioles today. And we still lost the game. And I'll say this again, one of the most undeserving losses I've ever seen in my entire life. So anyway, if we go over to the Orioles hitters in this game, not much to talk about. The Orioles put up 3 total hits today, scored 0 runs on 3 hits, went 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position. Again, only 3 chances with runners in scoring position. The Cubs went 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position, but again, still doesn't matter when we score 0 runs in a game. It doesn't really matter what the other team does when you score 0 runs, because you're not going to win a game when you score 0 runs. It just hurts a little bit more that the other team only scored 1 run. But going over the offense, Jackson Holliday was one of the few players in this game that was lucky enough to even get a hit. Jackson Holliday goes 1 for 3 with a walk, so he actually gets on base twice this game. Jordan Westbrook doesn't get a hit. Gunnar Henderson doesn't get a hit. Adley Rutschman gets a hit. He actually had a double at the end of the game with 2 outs in the top of the 9th inning. And then Tyler O'Neill had a chance to bring Adley home the tie or potentially take the lead. And he hit a fly ball out to left field that would have been gone in, I think, 10 out of 30 ballparks. So it was at the most warning track of warning tracks you could ask for, but it just did not get out. Love the effort there, but, wish we could have seen that for the entire game. Again, Tyler O'Neill didn't get a hit. Colton Cowser didn't get a hit. Kobe Mayo didn't get a hit. Dylan Carlson didn't get a hit. And Jeremiah Jackson, who actually made his MLB debut, someone who is in the Orioles minor league system, somebody who was playing for our AAA team. He is not in our top 30 prospects, but he's somebody that has been playing pretty well in AAA. We called him up today. Jeremiah Jackson goes 1 for 3, gets his first major league hit. So shout out to him. That's a cool moment for him, obviously, getting his first major league hit. But he was one of the only 3 Orioles players that got a hit today. Kobe Mayo got on base from a walk. Dylan Carlson got on base from a walk. Gunnar Henderson got on base from a walk. And Jackson got on base from a walk as well. But it just didn't matter because the Orioles only... we got walked more times than we got hits this game. So a ridiculous game, very embarrassing performance on offense, and this is officially like the first game post the trade deadline. Obviously, we talked yesterday about the Orioles trade deadline. We talked about the 9 players that got traded, and this really does start like a new era, I guess, of Orioles baseball. I don't want to say new era because obviously all of the young core is still intact, like it was before the deadline and going into the season and last year as well. So the young core is still intact, so I don't want to sit here and say like it's a new era. But it is kind of a new era in terms of like focusing solely on the young core. Obviously, when you trade guys like Ryan O'Hearn and Ramon Laureano and Cedric Mullins, those are 3 guys who played pretty much every single day. I mean, those are 3 guys who played every single day for the Orioles. And you replace them with Kobe Mayo obviously going at first, Tyler O'Neill playing, Dylan Carlson playing, and Jeremiah Jackson playing. And from something that happened that a lot of people will complain about is obviously Dylan Beavers hasn't gotten called up, and neither is Samuel Basallo. And again, it is just the first day after the trade deadline, so I know that Mike Elias doesn't want to like necessarily rush everything. We don't want to like call up Dylan Beavers and Samuel Basallo like the day after the trade deadline. I'm obviously expecting them to get called up within the next couple of weeks, probably sometime mid-August. I'm thinking is when they're going to get called up. I think Beavers could get called up a little bit sooner than Basallo, just because the fielding is a little bit more, I guess, of a need in a way. Because I don't know if the Orioles want to have Dylan Carlson out there all the time. I think that they want to get at-bats for Beavers. And then obviously with Basallo, you could have Basallo play full-time DH, have him rotate with Kobe at first. Like, who knows what they're going to have Basallo do. But I do expect both of those guys to be called up sometime this month. And I for sure expect them both to be called up as we go into the month of September. Obviously, today is the first day of August, and the Orioles are starting off this month with a loss, a 1-0 loss, a very embarrassing loss as well. But I do expect that Basallo and Beavers get called up sometime this month, and then by the time that we get to September, hopefully the entire month of September, both of those guys will be getting consistent at-bats every single day, along with Kobe Mayo as well. And then even maybe some days later on this month as well. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what Mike Elias decides to do. And speaking of Mike Elias, he actually had a little bit of a press conference today talking about some things regarding the Orioles. And 2 of the bigger things that kind of got taken away from it is, one, he was talking about Basallo and Beavers, talking about how he thinks about them every single day, thinking about how, he's going, like, he was talking about how they're going to get action in 2025. So that's actually good to hear it from his mouth that they're going to play this year at least. So that's nice to hear. He was also talking about Grayson Rodriguez and his elbow, talking about how they don't have a final decision on what they're going to do. He's been getting multiple opinions, but elbow surgery, aka Tommy John, is on the table for him. And to be honest with you, I think he should just go and get Tommy John now and just try and come back as soon as possible. Grayson Rodriguez, it just kind of feels like he never really got like an opportunity to really like get going. 2 years ago he was very solid for the Orioles. Last year he was doing good before he got hurt. And then he was supposed to come back. He was supposed to be ready by the start of the season. He got hurt in spring training. And then he was on his way to coming back again this year. And then he got another injury that he just keeps getting injuries while he's recovering from a previous injury, whether it's re-aggravating the same injury or it's a completely different injury. So, again, Grayson Rodriguez just cannot stay healthy. So I'm not even really considering him in my mind for like pitchers. I mean, I guess, it's a complicated thing when it comes to the Orioles and their future pitchers. Obviously, yesterday they got a ton of great pitching prospects over these trades that they've made, and their farm is absolutely loaded right now. But we'll see what happens in the future with those guys. But going over to the pitching in this game, there's only one pitcher that we actually have to talk about in this game, and this is the first time this season that this has happened for the Orioles. Trevor Rogers was the only player who pitched for the Orioles today, And the reason why he was the only player that pitched for the Orioles today is because he got through 8 innings of work on the road. And obviously when you're on the road and you're losing and you're a starting pitcher, you might only have to get through 8 innings. So technically, this is kind of like a complete game in a way. Pitched all the innings that he was allowed to. But Trevor Rogers in this game gets credited the loss, and that's the big deal that we'll talk about in a second. But Trevor Rogers is 4-2 on the season, but this loss that he got today is the most undeserving loss I have ever seen in my life, or one of the most undeserving losses I've seen in my time. I know Jacob deGrom went through this a lot in the Mets organization, but one of the most undeserving losses I've seen this season. Trevor Rogers gets through 8 innings of work. Yes, I'll say that one more time. 8 innings of work. Gives up 4 hits, 0 walks, and 1 run across 8 innings of work. And he also ties his season high with 8 strikeouts. 8 innings, 8 strikeouts, 4 hits, 0 walks, 1 run in 8 innings of work. And his ERA goes down to a 1.44 across now 9 starts this season. It's getting ridiculous. It's getting ridiculous with Trevor Rogers, and there might have to be some serious conversations coming up with Trevor Rogers because the big conversation with him was kind of that the competition that he faced wasn't necessarily all that good. When you go back and look at his past games, the competition before this game wasn't really great. I mean, he faced teams like Colorado, Tampa, Miami, Atlanta, the Rangers, the Rays, the Red Sox. Obviously, teams like the Red Sox and the Rays, the Red Sox and the Rays, they have been solid this year. But Atlanta's been disappointing. Miami's obviously not that great. Obviously, Colorado isn't good. The Rangers have been disappointing. So the competition for Trevor Rogers necessarily hasn't really been there. And I feel like that's been a lot of the reason why people haven't believed that much in him. But he just played against the Chicago Cubs. And if we go and look at the standings real quick, the Chicago Cubs have the second best record in all of baseball, just behind the Milwaukee Brewers by half a game. So he faced some of the toughest competition that he possibly could have, one of the better lineups in all of baseball, and he held them to only 1 run, but unfortunately the Orioles score 0, and he gets credited the loss. If the Orioles won this game and Rogers got the win, I think there would have been a lot more, spotlight and better shine on his performance. But unfortunately, people are going to remember this performance as him getting the loss instead of it being one of the better pitcher performances we've seen all year by any pitcher this season. By far the best pitching performance we've seen by an Oriole this year. 8 strikeouts, 8 innings, 4 hits, 0 walks, 1 run. An incredible pitch count. Only an 88 pitch count still through 8 innings of work. He could have potentially been out there for the 9th inning. It was an 88 pitch count. Obviously, he's pushing 100 pitches, but still, he was incredible today for the Orioles. And I just cannot stress enough that, I'm not going to lie, I might have seen enough, guys. He really might be the ace of this Orioles team and the opening day starter going into next season. Obviously, the Orioles are going to be getting Kyle Bradish back probably within the next few weeks. And just the idea of, going into next season with Bradish and Rogers as your 1 and 2, either way, Bradish is your 1, Rogers is your 2, or Rogers as your 1, Bradish is your 2. Just the idea of that is so satisfying to think of. And I'm super excited for next season, obviously, and I'm excited to see what Michael Elias does this offseason to kind of right his wrongs from last year. But this Orioles offense just didn't do anything today. Trevor Rogers was absolutely fantastic, was as close to perfect as you could possibly get. He gave up 1 run in the 2nd inning, and that was it. And that was what was the dagger, I guess, in the game, because the Orioles just couldn't score any runs. And I want to personally apologize to Trevor Rogers, not only for on behalf of the Orioles teammates and how they performed and him getting the loss, but I also want to apologize for anything I've said about him in the past. Any ill remark I've made about him last season when he wasn't playing well for the Orioles, or earlier this season when he was stinking it up and doing bad in AAA, and I just didn't believe in him. But at the same time, you kind of have to think you have to kind of put yourself in an Orioles fan's shoes here. When you see Kyle Stowers going out there this season at the beginning of the year, going out there and hitting multiple home runs and
You know, he's like 14-something home runs on the year. Like early on in the year, he's doing great. Kyle Stowers is looking like an all-star. He's batting above a 300. He's looking great. Then you see Connor Norby coming up, and he's doing good too. And then you look at the Orioles, and you look at Trevor Rogers, who's, I think he had like a 5.5 or 6 ERA in AAA. So as an Orioles fan at the time, you kind of have to say, okay, well, we just look like an idiot. Like, Mike Elias just looks like an idiot for this trade, because you got Kyle Stowers, who's playing like an all-star, and he was an all-star for the Marlins this year. You have Kyle Stowers, who was an all-star for the Marlins this year, and you have Trevor Rogers, who was just playing horrible in AAA and playing horrible for the Orioles last year when he got the chance. But when the Orioles pitching injuries started to come with guys like Cade Povich and Zach Eflin, when those guys started to get hurt, Trevor Rogers and him getting called up, that opened up an opportunity for him, and he is not disappointed in the slightest at all. He has had one start this year that wasn't necessarily great. It was in one game where he got through, I think, like 3.1 innings and gave up 3 runs. But other than that, he has been excellent, literally excellent in all of his other starts. A 1.44 ERA as a starting pitcher through 9 starts is incredible. I don't care who it is. I don't care who you're facing. That is incredible, incredible work. And I cannot wait for the rest of the season to see Trevor Rogers continue to do well. Hopefully to see him continue to develop even more. And I'm excited to see Trevor Rogers hopefully continue to prove people wrong and keep up this work for the rest of the year over the next couple of months. And then obviously post-deadline, as I talked about yesterday, the big thing was kind of, focusing on the offense and focusing on the development of these guys. But they go out here and score 0 runs today, so there really wasn't anything to watch with that. But going over to the game tomorrow, Orioles-Cubs play again tomorrow. It is an earlier game as well, and it's going to be Tomoyuki Sagano versus Ben Brown. Ben Brown for the Cubs has not been great. A 6.2 ERA through 88 innings of work. Sagano in his last outing was fantastic against the Rockies. Hopefully he can keep it up and have another good game against the Cubs. It is going to be a tough matchup. Obviously the Cubs are great. And Tomoyuki Sagano overall this season hasn't been necessarily fantastic. His ERA is whatever. Obviously he started off the year great, then he was really bad. But last outing he did good. Hopefully he can keep it up and have back-to-back good outings for Tomoyuki Sagano. And hopefully he can play well. But we'll see what happens in tomorrow's game. But thank you guys so much for tuning into and listening to this episode of Birds of a Feather. I know this episode is a little bit shorter than the other ones, but we lost 1-0, so there wasn't really anything to talk about regarding the offense. It really was just like a Trevor Rogers praising video, because at the same time, he was incredible today. He was absolutely incredible today. But that's going to be it for this episode. I'll have an episode up sometime tomorrow afternoon around the same time as right now, or the same time as when this video is uploaded. I'll have an episode up talking about the game tomorrow. Hopefully the Orioles can go out and get a win. At this point, again, I'll say it again, the Orioles winning or losing at this point really doesn't matter too much. Obviously, I want to see the Orioles win, but if they lose, it's not really going to affect me nearly as much as it would have before the deadline, because again, Mike Elias and the Orioles has decided the direction this season, and that's to punt the year and focus on development, and I'm fine with that. But if you want more content, if you like more content like this, make sure to subscribe on YouTube and follow up on Spotify. Make sure to like the video as well on YouTube. And if you want more content like this, make sure to follow the Instagram and follow the Twitter. On Instagram, I post updates on every single time an episode goes up. And then on Twitter, I post live updates, live game reactions, live tweet the games as well, and also just live reactions to anything going on around the league regarding the Orioles or the Ravens and stuff like that. So make sure to give those a follow. It's very fun over there. Make sure to give those a follow in the link in bio of whatever platform you're listening on. So make sure to give that a follow. But yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. You have a great sales day, great sales night whenever you're listening. Thank y'all so much for all the support. Go O's, go Ravens, and I'll see y'all later. Peace out.